Hi and welcome to my demo of the home BER log. Let's start by looking at the tree displaying the project structure. We have a readme.md, a BER-details.csv containing our data, and our menu.sh, which is the main entry point into the app. We then have directories for each piece of functionality in the app, as well as a utils directory for general reusable functionality. Let's now look at our entry point, menu.sh, and run the script. We first see this colourful splash screen logo displayed for a few seconds before our main menu options are shown. The script to print the logo is contained in the utils directory, and as you can see here, it uses lots of colour variable constants. These colour constants are also kept in a utils file, colours.sh, which contains semantic styles for all text in the app, as well as logo colours. Going back to our main menu now, we can see our main menu loop, which offers users options to run various scripts or exit the app. If an invalid option is input, a brief error message is shown. All menus in the app work in this way. Our first option in the menu is to view all records. Here, BER-details.csv is input redirected to the display records table.sh script, and then the record table's output is piped to less. Looking briefly at the utility script display records table.sh, we can see that awk is used to print the formatted table, first printing a header in the begin block, then each record, then a footer section containing a count of all records in the end block. Let's quit out of less and go back to the main menu. Let's select the search records option. This is the main search menu. It offers users two search options, one to search for match of specified field, and one that searches for partial matches in all fields. You can see the imports for these functions here. We'll look at each in detail in a minute. Each of these functions sets a variable called search results, which is then piped to the results table we saw earlier, which will display all matching records and the count of records found. If no matching records are found, a message is displayed informing the user. Then, after the search is finished, we go back to the start of the script. Now looking in detail at the first of the search functions, search by field. This script offers users a menu to search by any specific field for a case-insensitive but otherwise exact match of a validated search term. Users can also return to the main menu here. If the user chooses an option between 1 and 6, the user will first be prompted to enter the search term to input for the corresponding field they have chosen. The input here is validated, and if the user enters an invalid entry, an error message will be displayed and they will be prompted to enter a new search term. Once the user has entered a valid phrase, a variable called input is set with the entered search term. We'll look at the function to get valid input shortly. This input, along with the corresponding column number, is then used by awk to search the specified column for an exact but case-insensitive match of the term, and set a variable called search results with the results. Let's have a quick look at the getValidInput file used in step 1 here. This file contains a function for each field in the table to get validated input from the user using regular expression comparisons, and sometimes formatting the input in the same way records are stored in the table, such as stripping intermediate whitespace and capitalizing letters where appropriate. We'll look at these in detail later when it comes to adding a record, but the file also contains a getValidInput function, which takes the column number as an argument and calls the appropriate validator function and sets a variable called input with the results. This is what our search by field function is using. Now let's take a look at the search all fields option here. This function takes input from the user. Blank, whitespace only input will display an error message, and the user will be reprompted to enter a new search term. I decided also to not allow any input containing commas, since this would pick up search terms over multiple fields. The input is then used with grep to get records that partially match the search term, ignoring case, and once again set a search results variable. Let's now look at the process of adding a new record. This script looks through each column using the getValidInput function we saw earlier, which will set a variable for each field. It then offers users options to store the record by appending each comma-separated field to the BER-details.csv file, amend specific fields, or exit without storing the record. The user is then asked whether they'd like to add another record. Let's look in further detail at some of the getValidInput functions we saw earlier. We don't have time to look through all of these, but let's concentrate on the functions for validating error code and email address input. The getValidErrorCode function prompts the user to enter the error code, also showing the user a hint of an example input. All white space is then stripped from the input and all letters are converted to uppercase. It then checks the input against the regex to make sure it is exactly 7 alphanumeric characters, and if it's not, it displays an error stating that the input is not valid and calls the function again. The getValidEmailAddress function follows a similar routine, but input cleaning is not required here. The rather complicated looking check here looks for some alphanumeric content, including certain symbols, followed by an @ symbol, followed by more alphanumeric content, again with certain symbols allowed, followed by a dot, and then more alphanumeric content. This is a good starting point for an email address check, but I'm sure there's extra characters, symbols, formats, and edge cases that would need to be taken into consideration before this was fully usable. Let's now finish off adding this record, looking at some erroneous input along the way. When we're finished, we're shown a record summary and given options to store, amend, or exit. I'll amend the BER and then store the record. I'll go back to the main menu and look at the next option. We've now seen pretty much all of the utility functions that are used in the app. These functions, especially ones for searching and validating input, are reused throughout the application. The Remove Records option uses search functionality to search for records to remove. Let's remove all records where the year of construction is 1993. After getting the search results from the user, it displays the table with all the results that will be removed and a warning message stating that the records will be permanently deleted. It then calls this getUserConfirmation function. This function asks the user for case-insensitive confirmation, either Y or N or yes or no, and then sets the user confirmation variable to either yes or no. If this is set to yes, sed will be used to delete each matching record. Xargs is used to call sed once for each record, and it is necessary to change new line characters to nulls so that Xargs won't split arguments on all whitespace. The number of records deleted is then displayed before going back to the start of the script. Messages confirming that no records have been deleted or no matching records have been found are also displayed. Let's now look at the script to email users. This script first calls a function called getEmailUsers, which is a function that displays the email menu, which offers the usual search options and also an option to email all users. It then displays the users to be added as recipients and asks for confirmation from the user before either setting the email recipient's variable or recursively calling itself. Back to the main email script now. After getting the email recipients, the user is then prompted to enter the email subject and then body. Neither of these inputs are allowed to be empty or whitespace only. After input, the user is shown a preview of the email and offered options to send the email, change the email recipients, amend the subject or body, or exit to the main menu without sending. Let's send the menu, exit the script and view mail, where we can see our message. If we go to the bottom of the message, we can see our recipients, the subject and the email body. That's it for the demonstration of the home BER log. Thank you for watching and please do get in touch if you have any questions.